Hey everybody, welcome back to TK is Outlandish. Thank you. I am Teresa. I am the TK of the TK is Outlandish, and this is my husband Ryan.
Hi, everyone.
And if you are new here, because we have 153 subscribers now, which is like tripled what we had last year when season 7 part 1 ended. So, welcome new subscribers. I'm very excited about having so many. I did not expect to have that many. I know it's nothing compared to the millions of subscribers that other channels have, but I'm very excited.
No,
But
it's really cool. I mean, we're
yeah,
just kind of doing this just so we can we're recording our own thoughts, we're recording our own discussions that we have, and
this is
that
what
other people want to hear. It's just a cool thing.
yes, this is the I mean, not all the time, but these are conversations Ryan and I have in real life about Outlander. So we're just putting on video. So yes, I'm the book reader. I've read the book many times. I'm interested in book or TV and movie adaptations of books. Ryan has not read the books. So basically, we look at the show from my perspective as a book reader and Ryan's perspective as not a book reader. And now we're fancy. We have a microphone. I'm wearing headphones. We're getting fancy here.
These are all cool toys I got the last before the last season ended. We just didn't have a chance to implement them, so I'm glad we're finally starting to get semi-professional. Hmm. We'll
Sure.
see. We'll
We're
see how
still
the season
set up in
progresses.
our we're still set up in just our office, so um but we really appreciate the people who have been there from the beginning too. Especially Leslie. Now her name comes up as Leslie Victoria, but it might just be Victoria. That's what her username comes up as. But I really appreciate her, especially because she puts the timelines in too. Because I get so confused with the timelines on Outlander, the years, especially because they differ from the book than the TV show. So anyway, all right, so that out of the way, let's get into the first episode of season 7 part 2, episode 709, uh Unfinished Business. Yes, that's what it's
Yes.
called. And if you didn't see it, we did our first um reaction video of this episode the night it came out. We're planning to do it seemed to be rather popular the first time we tried it, so we're planning to do it for the next episode 702, which is called Brotherly Love. So hopefully we'll do that in a couple days. All right, you ready to get into it?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, so as we do, we just do a really quick recap of what happened, and forgive me for putting on my glasses so I can see what the heck I'm reading.
Forgive Teresa for putting on glasses. Forgive me for kind of moving around a little bit. I'm literally live producing and editing this as we're doing this. So we've got a lot of moving around to do.
And you're awesome, hun. Okay. So, quick recap. Jamie and Claire and Ian are back in Scotland. They buried Simon Fraser. They went back to Lollybrook. Found out old Ian is very sick, basically dying. Um, Jamie tries to reconcile with Leary, and Buck and Roger are looking for Jimmy and apparently ended up in the wrong time. So that's basically it.
Is
And
that a
then
spoiler?
no,
Okay.
because he saw Simon Fraser, so he knows it's time.
I guess he knows it's the wrong. It wasn't the time he was originally planning on going to, but he doesn't know it's the wrong time if Jemmy is there or not.
That's true because they're thinking Rob would have taken him to 1777 to find the Spaniard's gold.
Right.
So I'm thinking he's assuming Jemmy's not there, but that's true. We don't know for sure because he's still asking about because they did say, and we'll get into that. They did say that they saw like a fairy man dressed in strange clothes. So
Right.
it's true.
Which may be
Which may
Rob.
which may be Rob.
Which may be Rob. Right.
Yes. Okay. So let's get into this. Um.
Hmm.
So
And one more thing.
yes.
Shout out to Sassenach Scotch.
Oh yes. I was gonna drink it tonight, but then I decided against it. Maybe for the next episode.
It is
Yeah.
a good blended Scotch. I'll
It
just
is.
say that it's a good blended Scotch.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of whiskey in general. It's a little too birdy for me, but I can do this as snack. So, good job, Sam Hewen. Okay, so
I'm
so
not paid to say it. I just like it.
before we get into it, I'm just gonna say real quick, already in the book, like they don't get to Lollybrock right away. They spend a lot of time in Edinburgh. They get together the letters that they send to Brianna and Roger, like in the future. Jamie writes a book for his grandchildren. It's called A Grandfather's Tales, which they kind of hinted at the show because just because Roger said we'll tell him all the stories you told us, and Claire gets glasses in Edinburgh, and there's this storyline about how I won't get into details, but Simon Fraser's body starts to decompose. It's pretty disgusting. So I'm kind of glad they skipped all that and just went straight to Lollybrook.
That feels a little unnecessary. Let's just get straight to the Lollybrock stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also a whole other storyline where we find out that this whole time Jamie has had his printing press stored in Edinburgh from when it burned down. And to me, like in the book, when Jamie's like, "Oh, I still have my I was paying this guy this whole time to keep track of it," and it seemed to me it was kind of like, that's weird. I would think that you would have mentioned that over the past like 10, 12 years, you know?
I'm sure he
And
did mention it between scenes and between episodes to Claire.
sure,
Yeah,
well,
we don't see every second of their life.
yeah, it's true. But anyway, so getting to this into the TV spot. Okay, so you can get to if you can bring up the first image. Now, Jamie? Oh my goodness, what Ryan liked about this was that Ryan had commented that they never see him in the TV show to emphasize what they seem to make it seem like going through the stones is just like what did you say? It's like going through a toll booth. You just
Yeah,
take your rock, you
yeah,
take your
exactly. You have your right. Yeah, you have your jewel. You go to the stones. You walk through, and poof, you're in a different time. See,
mm-hmm,
I've mentioned this before that I'm a sci-fi guy. And so this time travel stuff is right in my wheelhouse. And one of the things that's bothered me about Outlander this entire time, and it still hasn't quite abated, is that whenever you're dealing with things like time travel, you kind of need rules. You need to set rules and establish those rules and then stick to them so that it creates a sense of urgency and a sense of that you can only do certain things because you have to stay within the bounds of the rules.
mm-hmm,
From what I've seen so far in Outlander, as long as you have a gem, you can time travel, and like that's it. And like that's fine, but that keeps so many things open that, oh well, why not just hop back and through and get a surgery? Why not go get cured? Why not bring something back? Why not do all these different things? So whenever they showed, and Teresa's been telling me that, oh, in the book it's a little bit different. It's whenever they go through, it actually feels like their entire body is being pulled apart molecule by molecule. Well, yeah, okay, great. That sounds horrible and would be a great thing to dissuade people from doing that on the regular. So I was really glad whenever they showed this scene and both Buck and Roger were laying on the ground in just pain,
mm-hmm.
because it finally showed that like, okay, there's at least some consequence to going through the stones, and you don't want to do it haphazardly, lest you get pulled apart by the atom or something. I don't know.
um I can't remember if they did it in the show, but in the book, Galus has a notebook about all these like mysterious disappearances and bodies that were found by the Crignadune or other stone circles, and some of them look like they were badly burned. But I don't think they mentioned so in their book, like I said, like you just said, um, there's a lot of indication of how serious it is and that you could die. But I can't remember if they did that in the TV show. But yes, this is the first time they weren't leaning up against the stone like they had just fallen asleep,
You know,
which
maybe,
is like
may,
what Brianna and Roger were when they went through the last time.
here. How about this? How about this as a rule? I know this is not a rule. This is what I would think would be a good idea that would be easy to implement and would create tension. What if every time you went through the stones, the size of the jewel you had to bring had to increase or something like that. And like if you don't bring a big enough jewel, then it takes the toll from your body. And so, the first jump you might just need like a pebble, a stone and a rock, a stone in a jewel in a watch, for instance.
Mm.
And as that was Claire's original payment,
That's
right?
something else. That's something else that I think is different in the show. I think she says something about she had a diamond in her watch, but I think in the book it's just a gold watch. So it's like, oh, it's like a precious metal thing.
Oh, so now it could be precious metals.
Yeah. Sorry,
Oh.
sorry, I brought that up.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll just whinge about this some more later, but we'll do that. We'll do that like later. I'll annoy you about that later.
Okie doke. So, so you can get to the next picture. So then we have Jenny and Ian. I was very, very cautious about Jenny, the new Jenny, because I really like Jenny's probably one of my two favorite female characters are Marcelly and Jenny, and I really like the way that Laura Donnelly portrayed Jenny. I think I can't think of her name. I think it's Kristen something. I think she did a really good job picking up Jenny's mannerisms, and I think she fit in really well. But I think one of the things that might have played into her interaction with the cast is that Laura Donnelly and Sam Hewitt actually knew each other before the show. They went to school together. And I can't remember if he suggested to the producers that they look at her to play Jenny, or if she said something, or if he said told her to audition, or maybe it was both. So I feel like they already had like this brother sister relationship even before the show started. So I think that it really came out in the show, the brother sister relationship. Although it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, they haven't seen each other in 10 years. He got her son sold to the Mohawk, so I mean, there would be that tension there anyway. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah,
so.
she did a fantastic job. I was skeptical at first too. I hate, we all hate when actors and characters are replaced mid seasons, or not mid seasons, but mid series. These things happen. I understand, but you can tell she did her homework. She
Yeah.
watched original Jenny, and she got the mannerisms down. She grew on me fast.
Mhm.
I'm sold. I'm sold.
Yeah, I did like her. Um, and also in the book, Jenny and like I said, Ian got sold to the Mohawks. That she had not written in a long time. When when Jamie told her that your son is now living with the Mohawks, imagine opening that book, right? And then you read that. So they had not written for a long time. So there was that tension too when he went back to Lollybrook.
Mhm.
Trying to see if there was anything else that okay, you can go to I think you go to the next picture. Yes. So it was. I really liked seeing old Ian again. I also really like Stephen Creed's character, how he portrays Ian. That's also one of my like Jenny and Ian as a couple were like two. It was like one of my favorite couples. Of course, second only to Claire and Jamie. I would say not Roger and Brie are not my second favorite couple, but we'll let that go. Oh,
You don't like them. I like Roger and Bree a little bit.
I like
As a
Roger and
couple, I like
Brie.
them.
Oh, I know. I like them separately, but I don't like them as a couple. I just,
Yeah.
as I said, I've said this before, I can see why Claire came back through the stones for Jamie. I cannot see why Roger would have gone through the stones for Brianna. I don't see that connection. But I like their characters separately. I just
You
don't
just
like them
don't know a
together.
guy's heart, Teresa. You just don't know the guy's hearts.
I guess not. So, um, so Ian is dying from consumption, which I did look up, and I assumed it was tuberculosis, but then when I had looked it up before, I thought it was. I read that it could have been something else, but I think it is tuberculosis.
I think consumption was again one of those terms given to a bunch of very similar
Yeah,
diseases.
like the
Um,
bloody flux.
yeah. So it was. I think it was mostly used to describe tuberculosis, although other diseases of the time could have also fallen under that same category.
Mhm.
I could be wrong, but I think that's, if I recall, that's what it was.
So one of the things that I was surprised about that Ian did not bring up to Ian, old Ian, about Rachel is that she's a Quaker. Like that's a really big deal. And the only thing I can think of is maybe he didn't want to, I don't know, put that on his dad, knowing that he was sick. But like the one of the major reasons that they maybe can't be together is because she's a Quaker. So I'm like really surprised that he didn't bring that up.
That's possible. Is I don't know. I should have looked this up before we started. Is was there like a religious thing between the Catholics and the Quakers that would have been very
It's not that
taboo?
he's Catholic, like technically he is, but he's like a Mohawk. You know,
Right.
he's like an Indian, and probably because they already set them out of meeting because he wanted to be for independence, and he wasn't even. And
Well, her brother was, right. Her brother was only set out of meeting. There was that
oh
big
yeah, that's
line.
technically she would be set out too then. So technically, yeah, I think it was only him that was set out. I don't think it constituted her too, but she followed him. But they
Right.
were against anyone who was. They were totally against violence for any reason, and
Right.
Ian being a Mohawk is by definition a violent man. So it would be more. I think it would be more the Indian thing.
Hmm.
Um, but did you know? So the Quakers. I don't know if any Quakers were actually in combat. I think they did a lot what Denny did. They served as surgeons and whatnot. But did you know they were known as the Fighting Quakers?
I
And
had heard that before. Yes.
I bring this up because there's a high school around us that their mascot is the Fighting Quakers.
I
So
remember that was where I first heard of it. And it took me a second to remember, like, wait, am I just thinking of the high school around here? Or did I actually remember that historically? And I think I do
yeah.
remember, like, after hearing about it from our high school, thinking that's a
Mm-hmm.
weird thing, and then finding out that that was actually a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, looking this up years and years ago.
Mm-hmm. So so that was a really nice moment between old Ian and young Ian, and that was just a very um sweet moment. And I think I'm just ready for the next screenshot.
Did they, was that pretty much the same in the book? Like the talking back and forth? Did they bring up any
Yeah,
other points?
except he didn't bring up, except in the book. I'm pretty sure I cannot find my copy of An Echo in the Bone, which is book 7. I can't find it, so I can't check and make sure, but I'm pretty sure he does tell her. And that's the other thing too. I was surprised he didn't bring up Archbug, because I'm pretty sure he brought that up too, because he brought up how guilty he felt about accidentally killing Merdina Bug. So
Yeah,
that changed a little bit. So
that sounds
it
right.
was
That sounds
nice
like
for
something
her.
I would tell my dad if we were having like the
Yeah.
first talk in 10 years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he didn't. So I thought that's. I even said that we were watching it. I'm like, why didn't he bring up Archbug? Like I would bring that up if a guy was like stalking me and trying to kill me.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another problem too. She's a Quaker. There's a guy trying to kill me. So I mean, they're important things.
Yep.
Okay, now you can go to the next one. Oh, this is actually, I thought there was another picture. I'm sorry. I'll just bring up really quick that the conversation between Jamie and Claire about him going to see Leary, when I read it in a book, that was just basically how I pictured it, is how they portrayed it in the show, except Claire in the book seemed to me to be a little more like saucy about it. Claire seems more, is it just me, Ryan, or does Claire seem, ever since she almost got hanged in, where was she? Wilmington? Was she in Wilmington?
This not the burned at the stake, the hanged.
Yes. She's been almost killed so many times.
I know.
Yeah, it's Wilmington because
Wilmington. You're
they
right.
stayed
Yes.
at the yeah.
Yes,
Ever
Wilmington.
since like that, she seems to have I don't know, she seems to be not as like saucy.
Not as
Maybe
saucy, to
yeah,
say.
yeah. Because like I maybe it's just an actor's choice on Katrina Bell's part that she didn't play that or a director's direction. But like when I read it, it was more saucy. How she was like, I mean, she did do that little, oh, you're gonna see Larry, but she was like a little more not as happy about it in
She was more
the book.
understanding of it
In the show, I
in the
think,
show, right?
yeah.
And see,
So
that kind of like that tracks for me. I mean, she wants to. I mean, she has no love lost for Leary whatsoever, of
yeah.
course. But
Oh, yeah. Okay, so something they did not cover in the book, and this is why I brought up that Jenny
they did
had
not
not.
cover in the show or the book.
Oh, they did. I'm sorry, they didn't cover in the show that's in the book, and this is why I brought up that Jenny hadn't written to Jamie in a while. So so at the end of book 6, I think it is, he gets a letter from. I think it's book 6. He gets a letter from Jenny. In the book, in letters back then, people would write them. They would write like for a while, and then when they would send the letters, because it took so long for the letters to get there, if it got there at all, the letters would be like pages and pages written over a span of like a couple months or whatever, or a couple weeks. And Jenny started telling a story about how she took her horse. I think it was raining and storming, and her horse like threw a shoe or injured its leg or something. So she went. So she was away from home. The closest estate was Balrigan, which was Leary's estate. and and she goes up to the window and she hears sound. I forget how she. Let's just say sounds of lovemaking, but that's. I don't think that's how she put it. And so. Jamie's condition for paying Leary alimony is that he has to pay her until she gets married. So Jamie's like, well, who is she? That's why Claire's like, if you want to find out who she's sleeping with, because they knew she was with someone because Jenny had heard them, and she's like, and I went to look in the window, and then the sentence just stops, and then like the next paragraph is like a week later, and she just never answers the question like who she's having sex with, and they're like, who was it, and they never know. So they know that and I guess with Ian dying, they were like, by the way, Jenny, who was Leary sleeping with? So but I said to Ryan, again, I can't find my book to confirm this. Maybe I'll do it for the next episode if I find it. But like the way they describe him in the book, he's like, I think he has a hunchback. He has like one leg shorter than the other, which he does limp. Like it's like not even that bad, but like he limps. But like I think he in like the I told Ryan the way they describe him reminded me of Igor from Young Frankenstein. If you don't know who that is, just look it up.
It is what you would picture someone named Igor being.
Well, I mean, any like old Frankenstein movie, like the old classic Frankenstein movie, it's the same character, like a hunchback with like bulging eyes, and just so.
I wonder if they were just like, if we actually portray this person as he's described in the book,
Yeah.
we're going to get raked over the coals
Yes,
for being
I was
like
wondering that.
caricaturely, like caricaturely offensive.
They did. Oh, actually, they did the same thing with the guy in the first season, like Jack Randall's lackey or whatever that he had in the jail, like the way he's described in the book too. And I even remember them saying in like the production podcast, are like, should we really portray him the way he's in the book, because it's like it's almost like a caricature if we do. So it's kind of like the same thing. Like at least this guy, like he's like not bad looking, you know.
He's
Um,
fine. Yeah.
yeah,
He's bearded. He's fine.
yeah, and but like it's first of all, and then I like how Leary just like appeared out of the shed It reminded me of Fat Tony appearing behind the tree in that episode of The Simpsons where they needed
Yeah.
the ramp. He's like he just comes out of nowhere.
And
Just
she just starts right out of the gate with the sass.
yeah,
I mean, she
yeah.
has that mousse on her face. She's just like she's sour
hmm
and just like she's ready to go.
hmm Oh, before we got to this part, there's two things I wanted to bring up before we get to this part. Number one, that cut with Roger just walking through looking for being like, I'm gonna find Jimmy, and then it goes right back to Jamie and Leary. I'm like, that was really random.
That was I think in our reaction video I said it was 5 seconds. I was being hyperbolic, but like it only was like 20 seconds of him like strolling through the
Yeah.
forest, getting a drink at the brook, and then like
Mm-hmm.
bam, we're back at Lollybrook. And like
Bell ringing. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
what?
Yeah,
Like that
bell ring.
was that necessary? Weird editing choice. I'll just say that.
Mhm.
Weird editing choice.
And I really hope when she threw that tea kettle at Jamie's head, I really hope that was like special effect, and there was, and he wasn't really like this close to getting clocked in the nose with the tea kettle. I'm assuming that was special effects.
It was
That,
either special effects or it was probably like one of those, breakable bottles where it's like it's technically glass, but like it
but
doesn't
still,
actually.
do you want to take a chance of it breaking on his
No, no,
face?
no, no. Of course not. Of course not. But
Yeah.
like, yeah,
So, but Leary and Joey have like, she's like, he needs me. I'm like, so that's why you're together because he needs you. It's sad, I think.
you just don't know a woman's heart, Teresa. You just don't know the woman's heart.
Apparently. Okay. So, where am I now?
We're
Jamie.
at Jamie's father.
I'm sorry. I am a Jamie's father, but it looks even worse than I remember. Not worse. Oh, oh, okay. The only other thing I was gonna say we don't have a picture for is when Claire was telling them about how she knows the future. That they didn't. I don't. They probably should have mentioned again for people who don't read the books that Michael works with Jared in Paris at the making wine. Anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so okay, like so the top picture is Jamie's father. Which, by the way, does Jamie wear that jacket? Look, it's the same jacket. Jamie wore that jacket like all through season 5 and 6. Anyway,
Yeah, like the old
so
duster. Yeah,
yeah, so that top picture is from season 1 when Jamie's getting scourged by
Jack Randall.
Blackjack. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's supposed to be in 1741, I think, before he meets Claire. Like a little bit before he meets Claire.
right.
And then this bottom picture, when Roger sees him, is supposed to be before that. And he clearly looks older.
That is a bit. Yeah, he looks older earlier.
Yes.
Like that seems like that's like a weird continuity error. That
And,
yeah.
and like, I understand time goes on in reality. He's obviously 10 years older because they filmed that in 2014 or 9 years older whenever they filmed that. But I feel like they should have done something because I knew that they got the same actor to play his dad, and because I read the book, I knew that he was getting into the door. Although I really liked the setup, like they acted like Roger was gonna knock on the door and it was Jody, but it's like I felt like they I don't know what they could have done, but I feel like they should have done something to, I don't know, maybe they should have gotten a different actor. I don't know. What do you
Yeah, they
think?
they sold me on that one. That bait and switched me good.
hmm
Yeah, they did.
I didn't think it was because I knew who it was gonna be, but I was like, I don't know. Maybe it made me question it. I was like, I don't know. Maybe they switched it up. I don't know.
Yeah, you never
But
know. They don't always adhere exactly to what happens in the book, and
Mhm.
that's yeah. You never know when they might change things up for continuity's sake or production's sake or story's sake. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like it's not just me. Like he noticeably looks older, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
100%. 100% looks older than he does in the
Okay.
first picture. Now he
Okay.
looked old in when we saw him last week, but I
Mhm.
didn't remember what he looked like in the first season. That was like it was a brief scene. I didn't really know Jamie's father from anyone else at that time.
Mhm.
And so I couldn't really remember. But whenever you told me to grab this screenshot here, and I saw the difference between the two. It is stark.
Yes. And maybe nobody else who doesn't do a YouTube channel about this noticed, but I but I definitely noticed. I was
Well,
like,
I would hope the producers would notice.
but
I would hope.
again, like I don't know what exactly you can do about it. Like time marches on. There's at least you can make Jamie and Claire look older. You make Jenny look older. You can make old Ian look older, but you can't really make people look younger.
Special effects can do a lot of cool things nowadays.
Well, then I was thinking like they did it for Harrison Ford, so but they probably don't have the budget of Disney. So there's that too.
That is true as well. Special
All right.
effects are not cheap.
So I think that's all I wanted to say about that. Let me make sure I take my notes.
Mhm. Yeah, let me know before I go jumping here again.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
We good to go to Jamie and
Yeah.
his daughter?
Yeah. Step daughter. But the one thing I felt kind of bad about is that we didn't see more interaction with them. She was kind of like there, told him what was going on. They did like the deal or whatever, and then she was just like gone again. So I wish I would have seen more interaction with them, especially because you wonder what kind of image she had of Jamie, thinking that like he did leave and find his Sassenach witch of a wife that appeared after 20 years and probably did not look like she aged 20 years compared to if she would have aged in the 18th century. And then he goes to America with her, and Leary is probably saying terrible things the 10 years that he's been gone.
100%.
And
Yep.
you wonder like what her relationship with Jamie would be like.
Yeah, I for sure, whenever I saw her, wasn't sure whether she seemed nice right out of the gate.
Hmm.
But I didn't know whether that was going to be hey, I really am nice. And, I'm just going to be a nice character. I'm going to be a stark contrast to my mom, and I'll be a nice foil for her. Or is it going to be she's nice up front, and then we find out, the camera turns to the side and she starts walking away, and she gets that like, you know, that evil smile on her face that she just did something, and we
Kind
find out
of
that
like
she's really leery at heart.
kind of like when Leary like apologized and then she's like, "Oh, but you will be mine." Like after he left.
Exactly, exactly, right. And so it's a pleasant surprise to find out that she actually does seem legitimately nice. She was a character foil to Leary, and it's a it's a good comparison.
And like thinking about Leary, not that I would defend Leary, but if you look at her point of view, like she's 16, she thinks that Jamie's in love with her. She's 16. He takes a beating for her. And then they're making out behind the curtain. The next thing you know, he comes back married to this English woman who appeared out of nowhere, who acts different than everyone else around, who disappears for 20 years and again comes back, doesn't look like she aged much because she aged in the 20th century as compared to the 18th century. Like, I don't know, maybe she thought she was a witch. Maybe maybe it's not just an accusation. Maybe she really did think that. I mean,
I
that
don't. I mean, she might have thought that eventually, but whenever she first tried to have Claire killed, the first
Mhm.
of the times, that
When did she
it
try to
doesn't
get her
seem
killed again?
it what.
When did she try to get her killed again? Oh, you mean just Claire getting killed in general?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Like, she didn't really seem that she really believed that she was a witch at the time. She didn't care. The fact that everyone else thought she was a witch, was useful to her.
Mhm.
I think she just saw her as her rival to Jamie, and uh, that is all that she needed to have Claire burned alive. And
Well,
that's enough to be like, I'm not sure if I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt anymore.
well, that's the other thing they changed from the book. In the book, she's not at the trial, but she's the one that personally gave Claire the note to go to see Gayla. So she like set her up even more directly. And I will die on the hill that Jamie never ever ever would have married Leary if he knew that she set Claire up to be tried as a witch, because he does not know in the book, and he says I would not have married her if I knew that,
Yep.
because for
Yeah.
some reason Claire never told him.
Yeah.
So
That
I
seems
will.
like that is yes. I would also concur that Jamie would not have married her. And it's also strange that she didn't tell Jamie.
Mhm. It's
I
just,
would like to think that if I would like to
it's
think that
just
if someone tried to burn you at the stake, you would let me know that who this person was.
I would like to think you would ask, why did you go see Gayless when I specifically said, like, don't go see her because she's trouble?
Yes.
Oh,
Great questions. Great questions.
Leary set me up to be burned at the stake. Well, anyway, okay.
Great questions indeed, all around.
That's that's the one thing that I will be like, never ever. Um, so conversation, blah blah blah, blah blah blah.
Back to
Okay,
Jenny.
bye. Yes. So tell me what you thought about the scene, just in the beginning, not this part, but the scene, like, as she's screaming in the woods. Tell me what you thought of that.
Um, that was I get it. I get it. Um, her screaming. She's obviously she's frustrated that you know Ian's dying.
Mhm.
Her husband's dying, and there's nothing she can do about it. I get why she was angry at Claire. It's a very reasonable reaction, to her, to me that she's having. She's found out that you know that magic is real, essentially. I mean, we might as well call it
Mhm.
that. Whatever the time travel through the stones is, to her it's magic. It
Mhm.
might as well be magic. We can call it that.
Mhm.
That there are people from other times who have knowledge of the future and maybe not have like divine omnipotent powers,
Mhm.
um, but Claire can do a lot of things. But the one thing she can't do is save her husband, um, and ah that would be mind shattering to me if something like that were to happen to me. That all these things I find out are magic is real, time travel is real, all these things real, and everyone can benefit from it except for me and the one thing that I really want. Yeah, that would crush me. I would go scream in the woods too.
Mhm. I thought it was cliched and tropey.
Now,
Just like
okay,
screaming all the words. In the book, she's doing something. I can't remember exactly what it was, and she actually gets into a fight with Jamie about this. And Jamie is about to say if could help Ian, she would. She loves him. I think he goes to say she loves Ian as much as she loves me. And he says she loves Ian, and Jenny says, "Don't you dare say that she loves Ian as much as I do," or something like that. And she kicks Jamie in the shin, and she like goes tromping out. I think she's throwing stuff, or she's throwing food at the chickens or something. There's something. She's still like having her like moment, but it's just like screaming in the woods. Really? Okay. Like I was just
well,
like
where else are you going to scream? It's impolite. It's uncouth to scream in your own
into a
house, I bet.
pillow, into a pillow, like many women do.
I see. I see.
But the other reason I wanted to bring up this episode or this scene and potential spoiler. I don't know if you have the banner if we need
Really
it.
want me to roll the banner real quick?
Potential spoiler.
This entire podcast is a spoiler,
It's
but whatever.
basically, but I really try to put it out there. So so the conversation Jamie has with Jenny, and he says, "You're after Ian dies, you're gonna put on when Mom died, you put on your apron and you cooked us dinner." This is a conversation that Jenny has with Rachel because after Ian dies, Jenny actually leaves with Jamie to go back to America. She doesn't want to be at Lollybrock anymore. And as I think it's Marsley that says it, she also says that Jenny hasn't had enough time with Ian because Ian basically like has been gone since he was like 14. So she goes to spend more time with Ian. But I think they're setting it up that she's not going to America with Jamie because she already had that conversation that was meant to be with Rachel, and there's one more thing. Maybe I wrote it down. He says like you're gonna stay here and help raise your grandkids, but the two things that if because Jenny doesn't have major storylines when she goes to America, not major storylines. She spends a lot of time with Marcelly and Fergus, who aren't in season 7 part B anyway. Um, so I can kind of get it. It just makes it easier. But I also there are really nice moments between Jenny and Jamie, and you also have nice moments because Rachel's mother died like when she was born, so she has these nice moments with Rachel too. So I think I'm gonna miss that, but I don't know if like obviously the book reader is not gonna miss that because or the non-book reader because they don't know what's going to happen. But like, would you miss Jenny? I also think that she made up with Claire too fast.
I don't know if she did make up with Claire too fast. I mean, Jenny is obviously a very intelligent person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once her emotions settle, um,
Mm-hmm.
that she would make up with Claire. It might have happened a little too fast, but I think we're just kind of we're quibbling over inches here.
I
So
mean, do you? Because she stayed mad at Claire for a long time when she came back, and she even brought up that Claire, you still mad at me I because I told my daughter for Leary to come the last time we were here. So I think she's the kind that would hold grudges. And that's the other thing too, is that she makes up with Claire when she goes to America, and she she meets Roger, and that's when she truly realizes that the time travel is real because she remembers meeting Roger 30 years ago or whatever, and he hasn't changed.
I see. Yeah,
I'm glad I
yep.
put up the potential spoiler because Roger and Bree go back go back to America. At, if it's going to follow the book, they'll go back. I don't know when, but they'll go back at the end of book 8. I don't know if it'll be the end of this season or maybe the middle of next season.
Mhm. Well,
So,
back speaking of Jenny again, like about her forgiving, like don't forget she in the at least in the TV series, she said, she was asking about, aren't you still holding a grudge against me for doing that thing with Leary and Claire's like, no, I am not holding a grudge against you for that. So obviously, Jenny thought that Claire was holding a grudge against her because
mhm.
that is something
'Cause
that
Jenny
Jenny
would.
would do.
Yes.
That's
Yes,
something that
that's what I'm
Jenny would do.
saying.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think whenever she realized that Claire had already forgiven her for that, that that kind of brings her to a realization with Claire that Claire's all right.
Mhm.
And you know what? Maybe she doesn't need to be as harsh. Maybe she doesn't need to be as unforgiving as she normally would be. with people, especially because she just basically accused Claire of holding a grudge, and Claire was like, "Nah, I forgave you long ago. Like it's no big deal." And yeah,
Here's a question I just thought of for you. Actually, two questions. So they also mentioned in this episode that she lost a daughter, Caitlin, which I knew about because they talked about it when she gave birth to Ian, but they never brought it up in the TV show. So when you heard like about Caitlin, were you like, "Who's Caitlin?"
I was I was like that, but then at the same time I was like, oh well, miscarriages and losing kids are commonplace back then. It
But
doesn't surprise me that it happened and we just didn't hear about it because it's so
why even
commonplace.
why even bring it up now? Do you know what I mean? Like, what purpose was that except to tell the except for tell the people who read the books like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring up Caitlin because y'all know about Caitlin, so we'll
Wasn't
bring
I
up
mean didn't
Caitlin.
I mean old Ian said to young Ian, that's a feeling we know well
Yeah,
about
well, that's it too. Why bring it up at all?
because young Ian told old Ian that he lost a daughter.
Okay, that makes
And
sense
then
now.
so
I forgot
and
about
then
that.
old Ian was empathizing and commiserating, saying, "That's we've lost a child too. We know the feeling well." And then
And and maybe if somebody watching this read the book, if they have it, I thought that the tombstone for I pronounce it Isabel. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it or not, which I thought was very nice, a very sweet scene between Jenny and Ian. I thought it was next to Caitlin's grave in the book. So I was actually, if it was, I was surprised that it wasn't also, like, that would have even emphasized it more. That would have been even a reason more to bring it up, is because her headstone is next to Caitlin's grave. Do you
that
know
would
what I
have
mean?
been a great shot actually if they just kind of
Well,
panned out.
that should be one of the writers.
You know what? Get you on staff as like like a guest writer, a proof checker, yeah, an editor. That would have been a great shot, yeah. If they would have like been on Isabella's grave and then just like cut back to a wider shot of Ian or someone standing over the graves, and then you see the other grave next to it. That would have been a cool shot. It would wouldn't have been one of those things I would have connected because I probably wouldn't have looked at the other grave, but at least then you can say it was there, and someone who's like, oh well. They even showed it at the scene. You just never noticed. I said, "Oh, well, you're right. I never noticed. That was
Well,
a good call."
Well, even Jenny could have said like we put it next to Kate because Ian knew about Caitlin because it's she had her before. I think she died like after a day, or maybe it was just a couple hours. But it was after she. It was before she had Ian, so Ian would have known about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, there was something else I had wanted to ask. Oh, do you think that if Laura Donnelly had come back to play Jenny, that there would have been more of a possibility that they would have had Jenny go to America with Jamie if it was Sam Hewen and Laura Donnelly playing the characters, because they had more of a um not repertoire. I don't know what.
Yeah, no, more chemistry.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. Um,
Okay.
I think I don't. I think that this Jenny, what's her name? This just Jenny's name.
I think it's Kristen. I forget her last name. It starts with an A.
I think she's pulling her weight. I think she's doing a good enough job that it wouldn't have affected the writer's decisions.
Okay. Okay, I just wondered because when I read the book and I pictured like Jenny, it was Laura Donnelly. Um, so okay, go to the net. Do I?
Last one.
It's the next. It's the last one already. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Crap. There was something else I wanted to bring up, but we could focus on Odeon because this is a great shot. So let's look at Odeon while I talk about something else though. um, the whole and I know I have thought this, and I don't know if I said this in a previous video of ours, but I had wondered what they were going to do to get Claire back to America because Marcelly and Fergus weren't there. And the reason Claire went back in the book was because Henri Christian had sleep apnea
Mhm.
really bad. And so she had to go back to remove his tonsils and adenoids, which our son had to have done. So we know about that. And I think I wondered if John's nephew would be the reason why he goes back, because she does also operate on him getting shot in the stomach. But, and you and I talked about this during our reaction, like, Henri Christian's condition is serious. Oh, and that's also the reason why Henri Christian's sleep apnea is also the reason why Leary comes to Claire and says, please go back and, take care of him. And Claire's like, of course I will. And then Leary acts like she has to bribe Claire. Leary says, I'll give up the alimony if you go back and take care of Henri Christian. And Claire's about to say, of course, I'm not going to hold that over you. Of course I'm going to go help him. But then she's like, oh, I have leverage. I'm going to use this. So
Was
there's
it just back then that just that charity between people like this just didn't happen, and everyone, it was like a
no,
quid
Leary
pro
is
quo
very
for everything?
no. I think it's because Leary thinks that Claire hates her, and she's Leary. That's what she's Leary. But they also don't emphasize, because Jamie has a flashback to when he was married with Leary. One of their few happy moments, he says, where she said something about she really appreciates him because he works the land and doesn't act like he's going to take it from her or something, because that's very important to her, because she's been married like 3 times, so she wants Balrigan to be hers, and that's why she agrees to Jamie's thing that he has written up. But they just kind of like, I don't think they emphasize that enough, that how, like, why they did that it was so important for Leary to keep her estate.
They didn't really emphasize it a lot,
Just
but
kind of hint that.
just from her character, and knowing how kind of like independent, and I don't know if I want to say greedy she is, but like
Materialistic.
she definitely has like a like I'm gonna get mine attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever, obviously there's this property that she's worried about, that she has a comfortable life on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a significant property. So anything that would potentially upend that comfort would be a problem for her. And so whenever Jamie offered to basically say, this is yours free and clear, it seemed completely within her character to be like, okay, that's what we're going to do.
Okay. And there was, and we talked about this too, that it seemed like Henry, John's nephew's condition, would be more serious, because it's going to take, 6 to 8 weeks to cross the Atlantic to get to America?
Yeah.
Whereas 6 to 8 weeks with sleep apnea, it really sucks. They had to stay up with him and make sure he didn't stop breathing in the middle of the night. But that bullet wound's gonna fester and cause infection, because Claire's already in America when John finds her and says, can you come operate on Henry, so he doesn't have to wait 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh yeah, really? So she
Yeah.
originally found out in the book. She found out about the surgery and was requested for the surgery when she was in America.
Yes.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yes, that's yeah. So
how do you even get there from Scotland? You'd be like, well, there's this bullet wound, that it's 8 weeks, it's fine. No, that's not a thing.
And plus, you got to send out all these letters. You don't know where they are. You don't know if the mail's going to get to them, because the mail was so iffy back then. Claire, I don't think they could have gotten a ship off of Scotland. They would have had to go to, because originally too, Joni actually goes with them because they go to France to get a boat, and she joins a convent in France. So Joni travels with Ian and Claire.
Yeah.
To France, and then they have to take a boat from France. They got to find a boat to take them, then they got to make the 6 to 8 week journey. So I don't
So
think it.
we're looking at a minimum. We're probably looking at unless someone can clarify something that we're missing, like what there was like FedEx of the 1800, like something like that. We're looking,
DHL.
yeah, we're looking at a minimum of 3 to 4 months since the letter was sent until Claire gets there to perform this surgery.
Yeah.
That does not compute. That's
Mhm.
like that dude's dead. He's dead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, all right. So, okay. So, when Jenny said that your father would want you to go live your life, I thought that old Ian and young Ian would have a conversation for him to actually say that. But I actually think this works so much better, the visual of Ian coming out. And that's one of the things that changed, because I'm pretty sure they have another conversation, old Ian and young Ian, about him going back, and he tells him, like, you have to go with Claire, you have to go to Rachel. But visually, it works so much better that Ian comes out dressed in his best, and I really did forget that he only had one leg until he came out there, um, in his tartan and everything. And somebody commented, like, "How are you not crying?" And I wondered that too. Like, I think that I was so worried about being on camera, I was like, I can't cry. But the second time I saw it, I got a little teared up. So
It was a very
yeah.
heartfelt. It was a very heartfelt scene,
Hmm.
as a son and as a father. That scene resonates with me, and I
Hmm.
can picture that scene. It
And
didn't
just
bring me to
the
tears.
wave, just the
Mhm.
just like the wave, you
Right.
know.
Nothing else, we've said everything that needs said.
Hmm.
And the son is doing the right thing.
Now I feel like I'm gonna cry thinking about it.
It's the right thing. Again, there was
Yeah.
no other words needed said.
Hmm.
It was all in their actions.
Yeah, that was such a great shot. So I think that's the last picture we have.
Yeah, that's it. And
And
we're closing in on an hour, so this is a good time to start wrapping things up.
yeah, I'm gonna wrap things up. This went a little longer than I thought, but it was the first episode in a long time. So um I liked watching your reaction when Buck and Roger knocked on the door and you saw Galis, because I wasn't positive it was going to be Galis, but I knew she was going to show up at some time. So I was just
You let
like,
me take the bait on that one. You didn't say a thing.
no, and you were like, what? Yeah,
Was that
I
the
was
same?
like,
Was that the
that's
same
the same
house that she was
actress.
in?
Oh, wait, yeah, I think it's her in
Arthur,
Arthur's
Arthur, yeah.
house. Yeah.
That's why it looked really similar, and I was like, "Wait, is that really the same house like that from like season one, two? The first time they met Gates.
One.
One, yeah, yeah.
And I think that was an actual town, so it's not like they had to rebuild the sets.
You're
Um,
right. I remember that now. You're right. You're right.
um, and it's the same actress, like, but she hasn't aged. I don't think. I think she looks. Well, I only saw her real quick, so maybe she did. But I thought she looked like, as opposed to Jamie's father, I think she looked the same to me.
She looked really similar,
Mhm.
and that was amazing.
Mhm. Oh, she must have good genes. I don't know. She like doesn't age, or she had good work done. I don't know.
Could be
um.
either. Could be either.
So right now, those of you who are watching that have suffered this far, we are going to talk about the preview. Whoops, I'm not used to having a microphone there. We're going to talk about the preview, and there will I'm just going to say there's definitely spoilers. So, um, definite. All right.
If you're this far in, there's spoilers. I don't know why we
Yeah.
even put that up.
So, so I thought I heard Roger say, she's killed 5 husbands, and that would be Galis. So I know she killed Arthur. It's highly suspect. Oh, she killed, what was her first husband's name? Greg, I think.
Oh, I don't remember any of those husbands' names.
The one she
We
like
talk
set on fire.
right. Yeah, were we talking about the ones from
Okay.
the present time too?
Yes, all together. Because Roger knows this all. This has already happened
Right.
before Roger got there. So it was Greg, there was Arthur, highly suspect that she killed Abernathy down in Jamaica or whatever they were. Um, and then, again, in the book, they visit with a family, and the family happens to mention that a strange woman that um, that they highly suspected as a witch, and they went up to her house, and they found the man hanging, and they don't know if he killed himself or if she did it because she disappeared. They highly suspect that that's Galis too. So there's that's four. But I thought I heard Roger say she killed five husbands. I don't know who the fifth one is. I only count four. But maybe I misheard him. Anyway, she's a murderess. And
Very
then,
much so. Yes,
yeah,
she does murder a lot.
yes. And Mercy Woodcock, I had mentioned this in the short video I made the other day of the coming up in this season teaser trailer that they put on Stars. That she asks Claire if she's a rebel, and I think that's going to be how Claire gets involved in the Sons of Liberty. That she's going to be like passing notes because in the book it's Fergus she gets involved with doing that. Um, and I think that's it that I had to say about because but here's my question. Okay, I have a question for you. So we know that they're saying like John tells Claire that Jamie's dead, his boat went down. So in the book, we already know that it's Jamie and Jenny are in France and they book a boat. And so I still can't figure out how this letter reached Claire so far before how the letter even reached Claire. But he said that he and Jenny he put the name of the boat and we're gonna leave. I forget, he gave her a date. Well, Jenny and Jamie go to the dock and the ship's gone. So he finds the owner of the boat or whoever like rented the boat or like was paying for the cargo or whatever. He says he got into an argument with the captain. The captain was like, "Screw you," and he just leaves with like his money in like Jane and of course back then there wasn't really like passenger boats. You had to find a merchant who was willing to take you on as a passenger. So he like takes their money and just goes, and it's kind of funny. If I remember right, so Jamie and Jenny finally they find a boat that docks in, I want to say Charleston, and they have to make their way up to Philadelphia. And they knock on Fergus and Marcelly's door, and they think they're dead. So they like freak out. And then they tell them everything that the ship sunk, they think they're dead and stuff. So Jenny knows all this, and it's kind of funny because when Claire mentions to Jenny about the ship sinking, Jenny is kind of like, well, it served the captain right for leaving us, and like, God bless those souls that died or something. It's like really funny, but I'm wondering if in the show it's going to be the same, like because the reader knew when John tells Claire that the ship, it starts with an E. I think it's a French word. I can't remember that this ship sunk. And that's the ship in the letter that Jamie said he's on. That's how she knows. We as the reader already knew that that was incorrect information, that he wasn't on that ship. Or do you think on the show they're gonna make us think that he is dead and then he's just gonna be pop out?
I think it'll be a end of episode cliffhanger. They'll probably do something like they'll get the letter like, oh, we're taking this particular boat, and we'll see you in such and such time, and then they'll cut to those scenes that we see in the preview, of the ship getting battered by the storm and then sinking, and then it'll cut back to them being like, oh, they're dead,
Hmm.
and roll credits. And then the
And
next,
then the opening scene of the next episode, Jamie's gonna be like at the dock and be like, "Where's my boat?" And it's
yeah,
gonna be like, "Oh, it went without you."
yeah,
That's like I don't know. I feel like that's kind of an. I mean, yeah, it makes for a good drama, I guess. But I find that a little bit annoying. It's kind of like the
it's a little
when the house
tropey. Yeah,
exploded. Yeah, when the house exploded, and then like the next episode, they're like, wait, they had just enough time to jump out of the house like a superhero or an action hero before the house blew up. I was like, oh, okay. It
and
kind of
the way the house explosion, it bothered me a little bit, because of the way they filmed it in the prior episode. Whenever Donner,
like he just dropped it and it was like boom, and then
yeah,
they go
right,
back and it's like
and like,
no,
oh,
don't
there's like
do
a
it. It's
whole
like
like,
slow motion and it spreads across the floor
right,
and yeah,
there's like 30 seconds worth of things that
yeah,
happen between like the snap that like happened in the previous episode. And you're like, oh well, so
yeah.
they did have time to get away barely.
Hmm. It kind of reminds me of. Did you ever see the movie Misery?
Mhm.
Do you remember that's what like drove her crazy? Sorry, I'm gonna spoil Misery now too if you never saw it. It kind of drives me crazy.
I
That's
think
like
we're 40 years out of Misery. I think we're safe on spoilers.
you never know. There's some people that they react to movies they never saw, and some of them are movies that are old. Anyway,
I'm sorry, you're watching the wrong podcast then. I'm sorry.
um, but that's what drove Kathy Bates' character like crazy because who played the dude? Was it James Caan? Was
Yeah.
he the writer? Because she would watch these old movies where like they would end the episode where he was like about he was tied up and he was about to like fall into the ocean or whatever, and the next episode he was like, oh, he got out just in the nick of time and all the kids were cheering and I said, no, that's not what you showed the last episode. That's kind of how I feel sometimes.
Yeah, the Deus Ex Machina stuff happened. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. So if they like build up that like Jamie's dead and then he comes back and he's like, oh, the captain left without me. Mm,
It's one thing, it's
okay.
that's a fine line, but I get it. So it's one thing
Yeah.
if you show the audience something and
Mm,
then in another scene or later you come back and you kind of retcon it and you say like, ah, that's not what you saw, wasn't the entire scope of what happened. You missed, we didn't show you this extra little bit which allowed the protagonist to escape. So that's annoying, that I get that. But that's a little bit different than saying, um, here's what we're going to show you, this thing that's happening that is not actually what's happening. I mean, what that's not what you think is happening. So you're seeing this ship that's getting battered and bruised. It's not like they're on that ship and they somehow
yeah.
managed
I
to
mean,
get
the ship
away.
did sink. Yeah.
Right. So that's all that all
Ah.
really happened. It's
Mhm.
just what you missed was something beforehand. So that's a little bit different, I think.
We
If they
didn't
don't,
tell you.
right, they didn't tell you something that happened beforehand, and they're just showing you kind of the whole of the middle.
Hmm.
Whereas if they were to show you the middle of something, and then something happens to get them out of that jam, I think it's a little
Or
bit different.
would it be better if we knew JB wasn't dead and Claire goes to marry Lord John to like protect her from the spy charges or whatever, and the audience is like, "No, he's not dead. Don't marry him."
Not
No.
possible. Not possible.
Uh,
We just heard if he was dead, I would feel it in my bones. You
mhm,
know, we just heard that. She just said that. And so, if she heard he was dead, I mean,
mhm.
maybe, but
That line's not in the book, by the way.
okay, but it is in the TV show, and I'm
It
sticking to
is.
that
Okay.
because she delivered that line very powerfully.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I agree.
You know,
That,
so
yeah.
if he were to actually die, she would feel it.
Hmm.
whatever that means.
I don't know. I mean, she clearly didn't feel, well, I mean, I guess he was dead. Like, technically he was dead, but he didn't die in Culloden, so technically she could have gone back, and she did go back, and he was still alive. So, this time travel is very confusing.
Doesn't the time that the soul doesn't travel through time? No, I don't know.
All right, well, we've gone over, like, how long have we been talking?
We're closing in on an hour and a quarter here, so
All right, well, yeah, I think we've covered everything well, and heck, in like 2 days, it's going to be another episode, so. Because I will be full of Thanksgiving food, and I will be sitting at midnight waiting for the next episode at midnight. Oh, on the app.
yep, sounds good. It's a plan.
All right. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you the next time.
Yep. Have a good one, everyone.